One of these days, I'm going to start with a non-researched rant about how purple is not a color. But today is not that day. The first time I came across Sheaffer, it was when I randomly purchased 2 vintage sack fillers off of Reddit. Those nibs wrote amazingly, and if I was buying those pens again today, I would probably still have them. As it is though, I was young in my fountain pen journey and probably should not have started with vintage. We live and we learn. Fast forward to today, we are looking at the 3rd Sheaffer product to ever come across my desk. This is a box with the most satisfying opening I've had in a while. Other brands, take note. The box is closed. The box is open. It's that easy. Before we get inside though, let's take a look at the outer decor. On the front we have Sheaffer, established 1913, and the color of the ink, written in 3 languages, and indicating the volume in both freedom and sensible units of volume. In fact, this trend of linguistics, it continues on the other 3 sides. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first ink that I reviewed where the box actually included the dimensions along with the rest of the company information and a fabrication statement. I don't know how I feel about that, but yeah, moving on from that tangent, the sides do describe an interesting feature of this bottle. With most of the bottles I've used that have an inner well, those inner wells are either centered or just plastic inserts. Sheaffer has theirs off-center and, from all appearances, actually built into the glass bottle itself. It's an interesting concept and actually made for an easy filling. Honestly, that kind of really does it for this box. It's a good box, and the slide thing is actually really cool. Speaking of which, sliding off the outer box, it uncovers the inner, which has this little filling instruction thing, and the ink itself, which is resting in foam. Don't know how I feel about that foam, but I mean, it kept the bottle in one piece in transit, so I guess that did what it needed to. Overall, it's a pretty straightforward unboxing experience. This bottle, though, is a little bit of a pain in the ass. I keep one of those as-seen-on-TV bottle openers in the kitchen, and I actually had to use it on this thing. I've never had that happen. I mean, it was another first for the channel. While I appreciate the lack of ink spills, that was a bit overkill on the capping here, Sheaffer. Now, as you can see, this is a wide-mouth bottle, and with the built-in reservoir, it's kind of a good thing. Cap off shows that the reservoir separator is in more of a central location, instead of off to the side like the box would lead you to believe. It does make it a lot easier to fill wider pens, and as it is, I like this design, and the simple tilt to fill of the inner portion is actually very well implemented. At this price point, it's an unexpected feature, but it's a feature that I really like and I'd like to see implemented more often. But let's go ahead, move on to the KPIs, and see if the overall package is actually worthwhile. So the color profile on display is actually kind of a simple one. First observation is that this is not going to be much of a shading ink. On the right, we start in the mids. Not the high mids or the light tones. This is just straight up middle. And the ink just kind of gets darker from there. On the right, we move from red grape into plum, and as we move over to the left, we go from plum into a velvet eggplant. Now, don't get me wrong, these transition tones here are amazing, but I doubt I'm going to get any of the sheen, even out of this broad nib, and I don't know, if I can at least hit these transition tones, then this ink will probably make it for the top 3. Well, for purple inks, that is. But what about the dry times? Well, good news everybody. This ink is a sub 15-second dry time on Rhodia, and as we move on over to TR, this is page turn dry by the 15-second mark. With dry times like this, and the color profile from up above, this ink may actually move into the number 2 slot in my collection. I mean, that's all fine and dandy though, but if this ink can't perform underwater, then it could easily just go right back out of my top 5. So let's take a look at that. Now with water on the page, I'm not really seeing excessive color lift here, and as we look through the water onto the page, we can see that the underlayer is starting to come through. And with the water off the page, what we're left with is actually a pretty good result. The underlayer retains hints of the original color, and I'm able to easily make out what was written. When it comes to spills, this is what counts. So let's go ahead and look at the writing samples and bring this all around to final thoughts. This time around, we are starting on Tomoe. Right off the bat, I'm getting some good summer plum vibes coming from this one. And as it dries, TR is giving us a good look at red grapes with a bit of eggplant. As far as purple inks go, this is a pretty good look. Without dynamics, that is. Don't get me wrong, there is a small bit of dynamic range in here, but out of this broad nib, deep mids and darker is all you're really going to be seeing. And that's about it on TR. Okay, who am I kidding? Amethyst is still more of a one-note ink over on Rhodia as well. The only real difference is that it starts deeper into the mids and manages to hit eggplant. Okay, I feel like I'm being a little over-negative there, so let's get back on track. This ink is actually performing very well over here on Rhodia. I'm getting those velvet eggplant tones, and I'm not getting any hard starting, no skipping, and if you add that to the better dry time, good extended off-cap performance, good lubrication and flow, I mean, this ink takes those properties and pairs it with extremely good water performance. So, I think, okay, I'm not trying to call this a perfect ink, but at like $10-ish for a bottle, I think it is a worthy addition to any collection. And it's managed to at least hit the top 3 for my collection as well. And that does it for our look at Sheaffer Amethyst. If you liked that video or found it helpful, then hit that like button, get subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.